first time I noticed the shadows in my apartment, I thought it was just my imagination. You know that feeling, right? When you see something out of the corner of your eye and your brain tells you it's nothing. That's what I told myself. It was late. I was tired, and the dim light from my bedside lamp cast strange shapes on the walls. Nothing to worry about. At least, that's what I wanted to believe. But then it happened again and again. It started small, a flicker, a movement like someone walking past the window. Except I live on the 5th floor, and my windows face an empty alley. No trees, no birds, no people. Just a blank brick wall across the way. So what was making those shadows? I told myself it had to be something normal. Maybe the neighbors were moving around, and the light from their apartment was reflecting in a weird way. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. Maybe. But how many times can you blame something on maybe before you start to question it? One night I decided to test it. I turned off all the lights in the apartment and stood in the center of my living room. Total darkness. I stood there, waiting, listening to the hum of the fridge in the kitchen and the faint buzz of the street lights outside. And then I saw it, a shadow, moving across the wall. Slow, deliberate, like someone knows something was walking just out of reach. Have you ever felt like you're being watched? That's what it felt like. My skin prickled, and I couldn't shake the sensation that I wasn't alone. My heart pounded as I flicked the light back on, flooding the room with brightness. The shadow disappeared, but the feeling didn't. For the next few days, I tried to ignore it. I kept the lights on, played music, and even left the TV running at night. Anything to drown out the eerie silence. But the shadows didn't care. They came back. Every night, they moved a little closer. At first, they stayed on the edges of the room, clinging to the corners and creeping along the walls. Then, they started shifting toward me. I could feel them watching, waiting. But for what? One night, I woke up to the sound of whispering. At least I think it was whispering. It was faint, like a soft rustling, but it didn't come from outside. It came from inside the apartment. I sat up in bed, my heart racing. The room was dark except for the faint glow of the streetlights through the blinds. And there they were, shadows, shifting and swirling like smoke. "Who's there?" I whispered, my voice shaking. No answer, just the sound of my own breathing and the quiet rustle of something. I wanted to run, to grab my keys and leave. But where would I go? And would the shadows follow me? I stayed frozen, watching as they danced along the walls. Have you ever been so scared you couldn't move? That's what it felt like. The next morning, I called my friend Sarah. She's one of those people who's into all the supernatural stuff, ghosts, spirits, all that. I thought maybe she'd have an explanation. When I told her what was happening, she didn't laugh like I expected. Instead, she got quiet. "You need to be careful," she said. "Shadows like that, they're not just shadows. There's something else. Something alive." "Alive?" I asked. "What does that mean? Are you saying they're spirits or something?" "Maybe," she said. "Or maybe something worse. You should try to find out what they want." Find out what they want? How was I supposed to do that? I wasn't exactly eager to have a conversation with a bunch of creepy shadows. But Sarah was insistent. That night, I sat in the living room, a flashlight in one hand and a notebook in the other. I felt ridiculous, like some kind of ghost hunter. But what choice did I have? I turned off the lights and waited. The shadows came, as they always did. This time I spoke to them. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Why are you here?" For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the whispering started again. It was faint, like dozens of voices all speaking at once. I couldn't make out the words, but it sent chills down my spine. The shadows moved closer, their shapes twisting and writhing like they were alive. I don't know why, but I felt compelled to write down what I was seeing and hearing. The words came in a rush, spilling onto the page. When I looked down, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely read my own handwriting. The shadows seemed to react to the act of writing, growing more agitated, their movements faster and more chaotic. What would you do in my situation? Would you run? Would you try to fight back? Or would you keep watching, hoping for answers? The next few days were a blur. The shadows didn't just appear at night anymore. They were there during the day, faint but unmistakable. They followed me from room to room, their presence a constant weight on my chest. I started losing sleep, too afraid to close my eyes. The whispering grew louder, and the words started to make sense. They were calling my name. By then, I was desperate. I went online, searching for anything that might explain what was happening. I found stories. Others who had seen the shadows felt their presence. Some people said there were spirits trapped between worlds. Others claimed there was something darker, entities that fed on fear. None of the answers made me feel any better. One night, I decided to film them. I set up my phone on a tripod in the living room and hit record. I thought maybe, just maybe, I'd catch something that would help me understand. When I played the video back, my blood ran cold. The shadows weren't just moving. They were reaching for me. Have you ever felt so terrified you couldn't even scream? That's how I felt watching that video. The shadows' movements were deliberate, almost intelligent. In their whispering, it was clearer now. They were saying, "Come with us." I've tried everything to get rid of them. Salt around the doors and windows. Burning sage. Prayers. Nothing works. They're still here, still watching. And I'm running out of ideas. Now, I'm asking you. Yes, you. What would you do? Have you ever experienced anything like this?